Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating shift in storytelling, a world where the lines between the hero and the villain aren't just blurry, they actually exist inside the very same person.
So let's just jump right in with this question. It's such a powerful idea, almost a paradox, right? And it has totally reshaped modern screenwriting. I mean, what really happens when the person we're supposed to be rooting for is the one causing all their own problems?
This isn't just some random thing that started happening. A key insight from a scenario guidebook actually points to this reoccurring character type, and it's become a huge part of so many modern stories. It's a pretty startling discovery, really.
And get this isn't just some theory. It's based on a serious deep dive. We're talking about an analysis of scripts written over 15 years, and in all of them, this one powerful common thread just kept popping up. It really changes how you think about conflict.
And boom, this quote right here, it just nails it. The main problem, the biggest fight, isn't coming from some bad guy out there. Nope, it's coming from inside the protagonist. Their own choices, their own personal flaws. That's what seals their fate in the end.
So this is the big idea, right? The protagonist as the antagonist. We're talking about a character whose greatest battle isn't with some villain in a black hat, it's against their own inner demons. They're basically the hero of their own story and, at the same time, the architect of all their problems. Wild, isn't it?
Okay, so let's look at how we got here. This wasn't some overnight switch. It was a real evolution in how we tell stories, moving from a much simpler time in filmmaking to the kind of complexity we see all the time today.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Think about it. Back in the 70s and 80s, you had these super clear-cut roles. Good guys were good, bad guys were bad. Simple. But after the 90s, whoa, characters got so much more complicated with these really complex inner worlds. It's the difference between a classic good versus evil story and something like, say, Breaking Bad. Walter White is our hero, the guy we follow. But let's be real, his own pride and ego make him the biggest villain in his own life. The conflict is messy, it's internal, and it's just so human.
And, this didn't happen just because writers got bored with the old way of doing things. It was a natural evolution, really. It was a direct response to what audiences were asking for. Stories that felt more mature, more psychologically real. Stories that actually reflected the messy complexities of our own lives.
So, the big question is, why do we care? Why does this connect with us so deeply? Let's break down the impact this has on us, the audience, when we're watching these stories unfold.
It's kind of like a three-step process for us. First, we meet this really complex, flawed person. Then, because their struggle feels so authentic, we start to feel this deep empathy for them. And finally, that connection we've built leads to a way bigger, way more intense emotional reward when the story wraps up.
That's exactly it. When we watch a character fighting with themselves, we're not just sitting back and watching the show. It feels like we're right there with them, trying to figure out their internal maze. And that shared journey, it creates this incredibly powerful, super immersive bond.
Okay, so this huge shift hasn't just been a game changer for the audience. It's also blown the doors wide open for writers, giving them all new challenges, but also much, much greater rewards.
Think about it from a writer's perspective. When you decide to focus on that internal conflict, it forces you to be so much more deliberate about how you build your character from the very beginning. And that naturally leads to more unique, more colorful, and diverse personalities. It can even push the boundaries of the plot and the whole genre into really exciting new places.
Yeah, for any storyteller out there, this approach is basically an open invitation. It's a chance to go way beyond just surface-level action and really dig deep into the human psyche. You get to ask the big questions. What really makes a person tick, for better or for worse?
So, that brings us to one last question to leave you with. For all your writers and creators out there listening, maybe the most important question you can ask isn't just who's the villain, but what is the war that's raging inside my hero? Because more often than not, that's where the real story, the most unforgettable story, is waiting to be told.